Hi everyone, this video is the second part of the illuminated letter demonstration video showing you how you're going to start carving your design once it's been transferred onto your slab. So at this point you've rolled out your slab, you've taken your design, you've transferred it onto the clay. Remember, you put that on top, went over all of your lines with a pen or a pin or your wooden tool, and then you've transferred your design. You don't want to start carving until your clay is a little bit more hard, like leather hard. You can see when I hold this tile, it's not losing its shape. But it still feels cold to the touch, and it definitely, if I take my fingernail, I can easily make marks in the clay. I can also smooth it out really easily if I want to. This means it's a good time to start carving. The tools you'll want to have available are your loop tool that's in your kit. You'll want to have both of your plastic tools that you have available, and then your wooden tool as well. You even might want to have a pencil nearby or a pen. Sometimes even something like this, like a household item, can be really nice for carving. Maybe even like a paper clip. Things like this can be useful as well. So look around what you have. There's lots of different options for starting to make marks in your clay. So the first thing you're going to want to carve is the area that you want to be the deepest, or the heaviest depth in your project. So for me in this project, that's going to be my background. So I'm going to start carving that out first. For larger areas, you can use your loop tool. And you can see how as I'm carving, these little bits of clay are going to start coming right off. If your clay is sticking to itself and it's making kind of a mess, and it's not coming off in ribbons like this, you may want to let your clay dry just a little bit more before you start carving. And again, you pick the tool that's going to work best for you. Maybe this loop tool will be a little bit too big for you to start carving your background. It's up to you which tool you might think is the best. Make sure you carve deep enough so that you can really have a difference in the height between like the edge of your project and then down into the deepest area. So for me, I'm going to carve out my background. I might decide as I get nearer to the letters, maybe I'll start using this wooden tool that's a little bit smaller. And you'll probably have to go over the areas multiple times. Some people like to have a little bit of texture in their background, like leaving these marks. Or you can always go back later on and smooth it out. It's up to you. If you have any really small areas of detail, you may want to use the end of this tool. Just make sure that you're actually carving the clay out. You don't want to cut the clay. You don't want to use like a paper clip to cut. You want to actually be removing the clay. So this way these little bits of clay should be coming out. Remember that you can always go back over your lines and smooth them out later on. As long as your clay is still a little bit wet, it has some moisture in there, you can still use your fingers to smooth those edges out. Just be really thoughtful as you carve. You don't want to carve so deep that you go through the tile. That would not be good. Unless that's intentional, unless you want to have an area where you go all the way through. But if that is the case, be really intentional and careful when you do that. So you can see I'm kind of getting all these little bits of clay off to the edge of my board like this. Make sure that as you're working, you kind of keep all those organized. You can always like push those off to the side. Make sure those end up in a garbage can. You don't want to let those dry and then just get ground into your carpet or stay on the floor. If you want to try to recycle them, you can always put them in your slip cup as well. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how we can add clay onto this design. Right now we're just carving away, we're working subtractively. In the next video I'll talk about how to add that clay on, and we'll use our slip for that. So you'll just continue doing this. Again, maybe I'll decide to do my whole background. Your design might look a little bit different, but when you carve, just be really careful, be really intentional, go nice and slow, and just make sure that that clay isn't too wet and isn't too dry. You want it in that nice leather hard stage. I'll keep working on this, and then in the next video I'll show you how we can add some clay onto this design so that not only do we have areas carved out, but we'll have areas that are lifted up off of our design as well.